Good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. So the feeding of the 5,000, we'll get into that in a minute. But first of all, I'd like to ask you this question. Are you sitting on your sandwiches? Are you sitting on your sandwiches? Now, I'll unpack that momentarily, as that might seem an odd question for you to consider. But first, I want to share a quick story with you. A few years ago, pre-kids, Shelley and I were invited to a wedding, and it had this thing where it's a bring and share bar. Now, Shelley and I didn't have tons of cash, but we went out and we thought we bought ourselves a couple of nice bottles of Prosecco. I thought that will be lovely. And so we rock up at the evening do, and the two ushers gleefully take these two bottles from us and kind of scurry them away in some kitchen space. And then within about 10 minutes, I look up and I see these same two ushers, each with a bottle in hand, just swigging away. And our nice Prosecco that we bought, that we thought we'd enjoy with our meal and subsequently with the rest of the party, gone. And I think we were left with a selection of warm Skol. Not great, was not happy at all. Why do I tell that story? Just that concept of actually sometimes sharing doesn't feel like, for me personally, the right or the great option. I'm not a fan of it. The number of times I can remember with Shelley when, I'll say, I'll buy a portion of chips. Would you like some chips? And she responds with, no, I don't want chips. I'll just have some of yours. No, you won't. If you want chips, I'll buy you some chips. But I would like a full portion of chips. So, Nathan, like Joey from Friends, not great at sharing food. Right, jump back. Feeding the 5,000. So this appears in all four Gospels. But it's only in John's account, which is a little bit like the story on the Saddleback videos, does it mention this new character, this extra hero, the young boy. And like many people, I have heard the story of the feeding of the 5,000 since I was knee-high. And I have heard it preached on in Sunday schools, sang about it, all sorts of varying perspectives and angles on it. But it was only now, as I was reading it this time, that a fresh thought struck me. And some of you will have thought this before, I'm sure. But it just occurred to me, that lad cannot have been the only person who had some food on him. Surely someone else had some food. I mean, we call it the feeding of the 5,000, but there, in all four Gospel accounts, it talks about there were 5,000 men and then women and children. And so numerous commentators have said you're probably talking of a crowd nearer to 15,000. So that's like Headingley Cricket Ground full. And of all of that, 15,000 people, only one person brought some food? Now that feels like a bit of a stretch to me. So I am pondering, therefore, did someone else, did other people have their food? And we can't prove it. But I kind of wonder if the scene happens, everyone's sitting down and the disciples' clock, it's dinner time. And so maybe in a few family groupings, the packed lunch starts to come out. And then they see the disciples looking through the crowd, rummaging around, trying to find food. So it's mum and dad shoot a look at each other, quick, sit on it, hide it. We ain't sharing that. Because there's not enough for everyone to have it. So all that's going to happen is we'll miss out and everyone will be disappointed. So what's the point of that? So just sit on your sandwiches, hide it. And then later on, it says again in the Gospel accounts that there were 12 baskets of leftovers gathered up. An amazing, amazing miracle of multiplication. But I also wonder, did some people not want the fish and the bread? Did some people, they filled up on their own sandwiches. They filled up on their own food. So when the disciples came around distributing the fish and the bread that this lad had given to Jesus, that Jesus had multiplied, they were already full, actually. So I don't need anything. So thanks very much. I'm okay. I can remember, a Christmas pre-kids where we decided we'd split the day. So we'd do lunch in Leeds with Sue and Steve and Catherine and Richard and the family up here. And then we'd do the traditional Christmas roast with my family down in Leicestershire. So Sue had said to us, I'll do just a light lunch. Now, we might have, and we clearly do have, different definitions of what a light lunch is, because we rock up, there's smoked salmon, pork pies, pickles, cheeses, crackers, bread, cakes, crisps, quiche. The table is covered in food in this light lunch. So we do the good thing, we have a good feed, and then we leave there at about 3:00 onto the motorway, down to the Midlands. And as we walk in, we are greeted by the sight, this is about 5:00, everybody sat around the table and Dad's just carving the turkey. Because we had young nieces and nephews and they needed to eat, so it was all right if we ate early. So absolutely stuffed as we were, we then sit kind of picking our way through this full roast dinner. Absolutely stuffed and actually pretty unpleasant. You get my point. So if we are already filled up, then we don't necessarily want any more. And I wonder if the run of this story that isn't called out in the Gospels, but I do wonder if Jesus said, bring what you can, offer what you've got, and I'll do something amazing with that. And then as a result of that amazing thing that I do, out of the overflow of that, you'll get back way more than you gave in the first place. And people said, I'm going to sit on my sandwiches. I'll be self-sufficient. I'll just eat my little sandwich. I don't need to join in with, take part in, or be blessed by the miracle. I'll just observe from the sidelines, but I am self-sufficient. Thanks very much. And they missed out. And so to go back to that question earlier on, are you sitting on your sandwiches? And I was just thinking as I was, reflecting on this, I wonder if there are different sandwiches, metaphorically, different sandwiches that we might be sitting on. So one of those sandwiches might be your life, okay? I am entirely self-sufficient. My life is good. I make all my own decisions. I've got this locked down and sorted, thanks very much. So the last thing I need to do right now is give my life to Christ. The last thing I need to do is to follow him. I don't need to. I don't need Jesus in my life, because actually, you know what? I can make these decisions myself. I am all self-sufficient. And so you sit on that sandwich. Don't need to give it to Christ, but I also won't be able to receive all that he's got for me in fullness, because I'm just sitting on that sandwich. That's the classic point we're at when we get to the decision point of, do we want to give our lives fully to Christ? Do we want to become a Christian? Do we want to recognise what he did for us on the cross, when he died for us, when he rose again? And do we want to live in the victory of his defeating death and rescuing us? Or do we want to go, actually, thanks very much, you keep that because I've got my own sandwich here, thanks very much. So that's maybe a sandwich we sit on. Another one might be your gifts. The rallying cry went out for church the other day, guys, we need you as a church family to get involved. Some did, many didn't. But you've all got gifts and purposes that Christ has put in you. You've all got talents. And so instead of using those, do you sit on them? Well, I could offer to do that, but I don't really want to at the moment, thanks very much. I'm going to sit on my sandwich. And as such, miss out on taking part, on being a part of what God's called us to. Your gifts can be, your talents can be the sandwich that you choose to sit on. I'm going to keep this for me, thanks very much. This is mine. I'll use it when I decide, for my gain, for my purposes. Not just going to throw it open to Christ. This is mine. Another one, potentially, your view of church. This is my church. NBC is my church. I've been coming here for X number of years. It's my church. So I want my church my way. I don't want to share it. I don't want to change it. There's some history that I love. There's some traditions that I love. There are certain things that I love, and so this is my church. And sure, changing some of those things might make it more accessible. It might mean that more people come through the door. It might mean that more people come to know Christ. But it's my church. So that's the sandwich I'm going to sit on. I don't want to share it. So I might not see the blessings. might not see the reach, the salvation, might not go see God moving, might not see the kingdom advance, but you know what, I'm sitting on my sandwich, my church. It might be the hope of the gospel. That might even be the sandwich you sit on. I know this glorious truth. I know it and I live in it every day. I'm not really going to tell anyone about it though. You know, consider, when was the last time you invited someone to tune in? When was the last time you sent them the YouTube playlist? When was the last time you connected them on Facebook? When was the last time you invited somebody outside of your friendship group of Christians to a house group? Back in the day when we could, when was the last time you invited someone to a Sunday morning or to a Bible study or brought them up to Beacon? Because it's only when we start to do those invitations and include people that we're sharing our sandwich. But if not, we have this sandwich of the hope of the gospel, the salvation that Christ has bought for us. And if we're not inviting people to join in with that, then we're sitting on our sandwich. And we say, well, that's all right. That's for me, though. This is. I'll just look after this. I'm sorted. But that's not our call. That's not our commission. Our commission is we share that good news. Go into the nations. So a few sandwiches there, possible sandwiches. Your life, that's mine. Your gifts, they're mine. Your church, that's mine. The gospel, that's mine. But actually, you know what? When we don't sit on our sandwich, when we treat those things like the little boy who said, I'm just going to give it to Christ. I'm going to give it to Christ and see what happens with it. Then we get to take part in the miracle. We get to see the kingdom grow, the kingdom come. We get to see salvations. We get to see God working, and we work with him and partner with him. But that only happens if we're prepared to share. So my question one final time is this. Are you sitting on your sandwich? God bless.